So now people are nervous. They're thinking, should I have voted for the Orange Menace? Because I think we're heading to autocracy. Guys, thank you for tuning in. I'm your boy Poe Theory. Thank you for tuning in to My Brother's Ballot. Don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe. It really helps the channel grow because I'm trying to build something here. So please help. So, of course, everyone is up in arms and very nervous about the state of this country. We see National Guards on our streets. We are normalizing snatching people off the streets. All things that the other side kind of warned that would be happening, and people didn't listen or just sat at home. And now we're here. So let's get into this clip from Abby Phillips as they were discussing it.
If there was a slow-moving coup, let me just describe some of the steps, and you tell me if I'm being paranoid. First, create a masked police force. Normalize snatching people off the street. Normalize seeing the National Guard and the military on the street. The Democrats do have a chance of winning, and they might win the next election. I just don't think they're ever going to take power, because this is what's going to happen. Because I think this coup is going to go off a lot smoother than the last one.
Former President Obama is also weighing in online, ushering his followers to listen to a New York Times podcast by columnist Ezra Klein. It calls some of the recent trends of militarization, quote, dangerous, adding that the erosion of basic principles like due process and the expanding use of our military on domestic soil puts the liberties of all Americans at risk and should concern Democrats and Republicans alike. Here is part of that podcast.
But if I imagine reading a book, reading a history of this period in 10 years, and this period having gone really badly, having either created a tipping into authoritarianism in a way that you cannot deny, or having created some kind of genuinely violent flashpoint between the government and its citizenry, this is the way I would have expected this set of chapters in the early months to read. Right?
Yeah.
These are the chapters where if you were reading them and it gets worse, it wouldn't feel like a surprise.
And the scary part about it is when Bill Maher calls it a slow moving coup, that's exactly what it is. I view Trumpism as with the analogy of the frog in the boiling water. It always starts off, the water's room temperature. And then you slowly start turning up the heat. Not too fast, because you don't want to alarm everyone. You do a little, you break a law here, infringe on a little right over here. Hey, they're not American citizens. Who cares if we're snatching them off the street? It's those type of small things. And before you notice it, everything's on fire. You're burnt to crisp. And that's what's happening to our democracy right now.
It would feel like a linear progression.
Now, Jennifer, there are some Democrats who have been at this level. If this is a 10, they've been at a 10 for a while now. But there are some people, and I think one of them is the person that Ezra Klein was talking to in that podcast, Radley Balco, and even President Obama, who have been kind of reluctant to go there. But they're going there now. I mean, do you see that shift happening?
Definitely. It's definitely happening. You see complete moral collapse of the United States government. The cabinet meeting with 3.5 hours of...
I would venture to say that the United States government never really led with morality, but go off.
Superficial praise is so cringeworthy. He's attacking the Fed. He's attacking all of our institutions. He's eliminating FEMA. It is horrifying that he is putting troops against American citizens because he claims that he's the law and order president. But we all know that's a lie because he's a convicted felon. He pardons convicted felons. He surrounds himself with obsequious people that kiss his ass all day, every day. It's nauseating and painful to see how weak he is to Vladimir Putin and others.
I mean, what do you think about all of this? I mean, a lot of people say that alarmism doesn't help Democrats, but there are also things happening that Trump is doing that are alarming, even conservatives.
Well, alarmism alone doesn't do anything. And I think Democrats have gotten very good at correctly identifying the problem, naming the problem, whether it's fascism or authoritarianism. This is all true.
Do you think that's an accurate description of what is happening right now?
Oh, well, SC Cup has always been pretty good when it comes to Trump, even though she's on the right. I don't agree with her politically on many things, but she's always been on the right side when it comes to calling a thing, essentially.
Absolutely, without question. We've had many conversations at this table. Bill Maher ticked down some examples. But so what? And what? And what next? The conversations I don't hear Democrats having is what we're going to do about it. It can't just be Gavin Newsom tweeting like the president does. That's not it. It can't be sit-ins and protests. If Democrats want to combat this and get a chance at another election, and I understand where Bill Maher is going with this, that like elections might not happen in future years if this continues. They've got to win. They've got to win elections. And no one in the party, I talk to Democrats all day long, no one is talking about where's our agenda? Where's our New Deal, our contract with America?
1000%. They just keep calling out Trump. That's it. At the end of the day, that worked in 2016. That worked in his first presidency, but that doesn't work anymore. People need to know, what are you going to do for us, Democrats? You can't just keep saying Trump is bad. People feel like they've already lived through this and they'll be okay again. Difference is now he has a lot more horrible people around him and he understands how government works now. And so, yes, Trump bad, but what are you doing what are you going to do for the American people, Democrats? You're not even listening to those that are on the left of you when it comes to Gaza and things of that nature. 8% of Democrats are supporting what Israel is doing in Gaza. 8%. But somehow we have all of our Democratic elected leaders still caping for AIPAC and still refusing to endorse Zoran. Meanwhile, the base is telling you this is what we want. We don't want what Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer is giving us.
What's our platform to identify and solve the problems that Americans are screaming they have? Only Trump is saying, here's my answer for them. We don't like the answers, but he's answering them. Democrats aren't even asking the question. They're just naming the problem over and over again in an echo chamber.
I make an argument that naming the problem is not an unreasonable thing to do, because there are some people who are, I think the analogy is like a frog boiling slowly in water.
Well, there we go. She took my analogy.
You don't really notice what's happening until it's.
Oh, we all notice it. Who's not noticing it?
Some people,
everyone notices it.
A couple people at the table here probably disagree. So
but I'm not talking to them. I'm talking to Democrats. They all notice it.
In just a
But
second.
the
But
issue
go ahead,
with
Dante.
Democrats is, how do you attack it? Because Donald Trump does not operate politically. He does not operate within the structure of our government as it was put together and as it functioned for hundreds of years. He operates outside of that.
But
so
are
you're
there
asking
other
politicians
options than
to
attacking
not
Donald
be
Trump?
political, to step aside and say, I'm going to ignore the rule of law. I'm going to tell people if a judge rules against me, that judge is a bad person and not to listen.
Well, then play that game. Play that game. I use the superhero and bad guy analogy all the time. If you watch any Marvel movie, if the bad guy is crashing through buildings and the good guys are chasing him, you have the good guys trying to stop people from falling and avoiding buildings. But meanwhile, the bad guy is completely devoid of caring about any rules and just knocking all these buildings down. And meanwhile, the longer that the good guys are trying to follow all the rules that the bad guys are not following, the rest of the world is crumbling around us.
To him, I don't know if we want Democrats to join in that fight, but there has to be a way to combat it.
No one's saying that, but for 3 election cycles, the Democratic plan seems to have been let Trump hang himself and go after Trump. This isn't about Trump. The voters need to be talked to in ways that aren't Democrats sneering at them, saying, you're safe, look at this graph. The economy's great, look at these numbers.
That may be
but that's exactly what Democrats are doing. They're doing it with illegal immigrants. They're doing it with crime, and they're doing it with the government. You said it's the way government functions. A supermajority of the American people say government is dysfunctional. They don't trust government. Go back to the Ike LBJ days, and trust in government was in the 70s. Today, it's in the 30s. The low water mark, and I think it's delicious that Barack Obama is weighing in, the low water mark during the era was 10% when Barack Obama was president. Only 10% of Americans trusted government. That's what propelled Donald Trump into the White House. He's being
Now, that I agree with. I agree with that 1,000%. Trust in government has been historically low, and that is what got Trump in office. People didn't want more of the same, even though it was very clear that he should not have been the person that was elected or pushed forward, but he got in. And unfortunately, that is the fault of the Democrats and the Republicans, the establishment Republicans, I should say, and all of the Democrats.
Responsive to the problems that Americans are
But
facing.
you can't trust government.
And he's enforcing the laws that are on the books.
We can talk
Putting
about those
troops in
numbers.
Washington is the law.
You
He
can't
has
trust
the right to
government
do
when they
that.
call in Republican leaders from Indiana and say, hey, you have to figure out a way to redistrict so that we can get more seats. That's not how
And
government
is
is supposed to
100%
work.
legal in the state of Indiana. You can do that. There's no prohibition. Now, whether they will do it or not,
I think
I don't know.
this is
We'll see.
actually, Pete, this is a very key point that you just brought up. I mean, whether it's Indiana or
And that's I don't know the black guy's name, but he is an example of what's wrong. He is still trying to talk about norms and rules when it comes to Trump's America. Rules don't matter. We have to fight fire with fire. Excuse me. We have to fight fire with water.
anything else that Trump is doing, DC, lots of things are permissible. But many presidents, many political figures before Trump did not do them, because in this country, you have choices here, right? There are laws on the books that allow you to do certain things. And many politicians say, we're not going to go there because let's say hypothetically, that's reserved for extreme circumstances. I think what people are responding to right now is Trump looking at all those things and saying, I'm going to do what, as he said, whatever I want, if there's any inkling of a chance that I have the power to do it.
Well, he is exercising political power. And as Pete pointed out about the redistricting, it is legal to do. I think the National Guard in Washington, D.C. not only is legal, but I think even the mayor of Washington, D.C. this week has said, hey, it seems to be working. So I think the
mayor of D.C., that Democratic black woman mayor, needs to be kicked out. D.C., if you vote her back in after all this capitulating that she has done to Donald Trump, you get what you deserve. She is a horrible mayor.
alarmism from Trump's biggest detractors is the same kind of rhetoric and alarmism that they were sounding back in September and October during the election. And how did the American people respond to it then? They voted for Donald Trump. The way you solve all problems in a political system is you go out and try to win an election.
Yeah. But you can't do redistricting and changing the rules so that
sure you can.
He doesn't want to run another election.
Democrats did not win the last election for a reason. They may not win the next one for a reason. And so in a political system, you have to trust the voters. The voters elected Donald Trump. He's basically running the play that he laid out. And yes, I understand the whining and alarmism now, but the way you solve all your problems in politics is to convince people that you are right and they are wrong, and you do.
Now, I hate to have to say it, but I agree with Scott here. I agree with Scott. If you can't beat this, it's you, not the voters. It's you. It's you, Democrats. It's you, Chuck Schumer. It's you, Hakeem Jeffries. It's you, Alyssa Slotkin. Y'all are not meeting the moment whatsoever.
Journalist Radley Balco talking about a quote from a conservative named Michael Leedon, who was talking about Iran. This is the context here, comparing what's happening today to what this conservative was saying was happening in Iran a couple of decades ago. Watch this.
The other thing, we're seeing is obviously the masks. When the agents of the government hide their faces, it speaks volumes about the relationship between the government and the people, right? And he was saying that this is a sign of a totalitarian state. And now it's just routine. I mean, we're seeing this all over the country. I think we have entered kind of the worst case scenario, and it's hard to see how we get out of it.
Pete,
I agree 1000% with that. I have said, if you're an agent of the government, you should not be covering or hiding your face. You decided to take this job, no matter how unpopular this job is, that's what comes with the job. Sorry.
Honestly, when you look at other countries and you see things like that in places like Iran and elsewhere, agents of the state masking their faces, hiding their identities, what is your gut feeling about that when you see those images, and why perhaps do some people not apply that to the United States when it's happening here?
I would prefer that these ICE agents weren't covering their face, but I understand why. I understand that there are threats against them, and they have to also protect their safety in what is a very volatile world, whether ICE is enforcing immigration laws or not.
But don't you think, look, rank and file police officers in this country are carrying out law enforcement activities every single day. FBI agents.
Every single day. As a person that's former partner was a police officer, I know the ins and outs of that job like nobody's business. I mean, as much as you can when your partner is a police officer. Never had to wear a mask unless it was COVID or something like that. I just don't understand. Well, I do understand. It's supposed to incite fear. And again, I hate to compare it to this, but that's what the Nazis did, hiding their faces and going into hiding when Germany fell. I think they should be showing their face. You are an agent of the government. You represent the people. We should be able to see who is interacting with the public and representing us.
Regular police officers, they are not covering their faces. And what he's talking about in that clip is the relationship between law enforcement and the community that they serve. And what happens when that gets broken down, when agents close their faces off to the world and say, I'm not accountable to you. I think that is one of the things that has
reached forward to neighborhood policing and making it so that now the communities have the relationship with the people that their job is to keep them safe. But you're bringing in military who they're not trained to do that. They're trained to be in Syria and Iraq and Iran in places where it's combative. That's a different mindset. And we don't want to make that where we have those people coming into our communities. They don't know the lingo. They don't know the verbiage and the people in the neighborhoods and how they act and what is okay, what's not okay, where the safe places are. So you're creating a situation that can boil over and people can get hurt because you're bringing people that don't understand it.
That has been said for weeks now. And tell me one example of when that's happened.
Of what?
Of these clashes between the National Guard and citizens.
They are happening every day.
They are literally happening every day. How about just not even like an interaction or a physical talk? How about the fact that there are literally tanks crashing into vehicles, crashing into civilian vehicles in DC? Tanks.
I mean, they happen in LA with protesters, but have they happened in DC?
There are clashes between these forces. I mean, they're all different types, right? It's a lot of different agencies that are involved here, and regular citizens every day. Maybe you haven't seen them, but they are happening. I think the point that he's making is when people sign up to serve in the military, they're not signing up to police their fellow citizens. They're signing up to defend the homeland.
National Guard, though, does sign up to engage in emergency situations.
Yes, but that is different from policing. We all know that. But Scott, I know you were going to say something. Scott was going to say something.
On the masks, I actually interviewed the director of ICE today, Todd Lyons, on my radio show for about 20 minutes. I asked him point blank about the masks. I said, what is the situation with the masks? Why is it happening? What is your observation? He said, I don't like the masks. I wish we didn't have to do the masks. He said back in March, we weren't. But then something changed. And what changed was people started doxing these ICE agents, posting their personal information, posting where their families are, posting where their kids' schools are, putting them and their families in jeopardy. And he doesn't.
Unfortunately, I hate that that's happening. But if that is what's happening with the job, I'm sorry, that's the job you decided to take. No one forced you to be an ICE agent. No one forced you to be an agent of this state that is literally disappearing people. And again, when you know that there is anonymity there, you are not held accountable. You will go further in infringing on someone's rights. You will be more violent because guess what? No one knows who you are. Shame is extremely important when it comes to holding law enforcement accountable. That's why we have body cams. That's why we have people on the street recording every instance that happens with ICE or anyone of that nature. If they can do this to senators and arrest judges, what do you think they're doing to everyday citizens? What about the everyday citizen that was actually born here, but ICE got it wrong, and now they have lost a month of their life? Hell, they could possibly be deported to a country they had never seen before because there was a clerical error, or they were hanging around with some undocumented folks.
want them to have to do it.
That is a risk that every law enforcement officer in this country faces. Everyone.
You think they deserve? You think they should face
I'm not
that
saying.
risk?
Listen, I'm not saying that that is right. I'm not saying that is good. It's terrible. No one should be doxxed. No one's families should be brought into their work. But what I am saying is that there are beat officers in this country, in every city in America, who are doing their jobs in extremely dangerous situations, and they show their face. Why? Because they work for the people. That is the reason. So the argument here is that's a risk that you take when you take on this responsibility of having law enforcement power in this country, because the accountability is between you and the people.
Yeah, well, I don't agree that law enforcement officers in any agency should have to face the risk of their family being assaulted or themselves.
I don't agree with that either, but I do think that the accountability piece of it cannot be ignored.
1000%. With that much power, they should be held accountable in every which way. This should be a bare minimum. The fact that anyone can even argue for the point that they should be able to still wear masks is crazy.
They're always the persecutor and the victim. Law enforcement, regardless of what agency they represent.
Of course, there should be accountability. And I agree with you about the relationship between policing agencies and the community. Unfortunately, in this case, certain people in our community have decided to take matters in their own hands. I heard a clip today of a congressman named John Larson from Minnesota screaming into a microphone, "This is Nazi Germany. They're the Gestapo." What do you think that does to radicalize people? That is irresponsible, and it's not the fault of an ICE agent for that kind of rhetoric to be in our system.
Everybody's missing the point here. The point is he's doing this on purpose. He's priming the public to get accustomed to having the military in the streets. He's priming you to have distrust in the rule of law. He himself is a convicted felon. He opposes the rule of law, and we know this because he pardoned people that beat up cops on January 6th. Meanwhile, this guy, this should be the lead story, is clearly suffering from massive mental decline. He is out of his mind with all of the show and tell procedures that go on in the Oval Office. 2 days ago, he gave 3 press conferences in a row. And if you don't think he has dementia, let's just discuss the time that when he was on the campaign trail, that he tried to perform oral sex on a microphone. If Joe Biden did this,
I hope this is what Democrats do next year. If this is the Democratic strategy, congratulations, America. You've already reelected Republican majorities as far as the eye can see.
Yeah, because Trump's approval is in the low 30s. It's in the low 30s right now.
And again, I always say this, whenever you hear a Republican say, "Hey guys, hey Democrats, if this is what you're going to do, please, this will be a gift to Republicans. Please do this." That's code for please don't do this. That actually might work. All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed this little clip of me reacting to this video. I just want to say, if you hear my voice, no matter where you are, please pay attention to what's happening. Please find some level of empathy in your heart that even if you can't stand Democrats, as I am one of those people, I can't stand Democrats. I feel like they are the reason that we have Trump this second time. And so if you can, and I'm just being honest with you, there is no sane elected Republican. If they can vote or stand by anything that this administration is doing, there's no sanity within them. All right, guys. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe. Peace.